This is the initial tweet that people are talking about. Being loud about it because I've lost yet another person this week. Blizzard is losing. This is a producer at WoW. Blizzard is losing amazing talent because someone in power doesn't listen to game directors who make his products. His products. I wonder who he's talking about. DE&I also means diversity of thought, especially when it's backed by data and financials, which it definitely is. Here's the thing. And look, I don't want to fight, he says. I just want to make video games. I want to make amazing bestsellers that are critically acclaimed. I want to make better Dragonflights. I want to make better experiences. Can't do that if we get rid of everyone who made it. Last thought, some talent is undermining the point. We are creating crisis maps of what we can or cannot ship. That is the loss of capacity we are facing. I literally have a schedule I strike out as people hand in notice. And that's bad news, right? This is incredibly bad news. This is the worst fucking news. Like, this is not even low-key the worst possible news an MMO could have. This is just like the worst fucking news. What he's saying is the people that made Dragonflight are fucking off. And they are fucking off purely because Blizzard are making them come back into the office when they don't want to. And even worse, there is no need. There is no need. If you think that Dragonflight is good, you have to agree that people shouldn't have to go back into the office. Because Dragonflight was made 100% out of office. 100%. And I get that there are people that work better in office environments. I get that. I'm probably one of them, honestly. You know, I work from home, and there are times when I would absolutely love to be leaving the house and going to an office every day with work colleagues who I only know through work and stuff like that. There are times when I feel like that would really help with my kind of mental health and my productivity. Absolutely. But the end of the day is, Dragonflight was made entirely work from home. And if people don't want to return to the office to the extent that they would rather leave the company and work for companies that do let them work from home, then you've got to say that's the wrong choice. You've got to offer work from home for the people that want it. There are people that were literally hired on work from home who live in different countries. There are people who, after work from home, moved out of state to places much cheaper where they have a much better quality of life because they don't have to live in Anaheim, literally the most expensive city in the world. What is DE&I? Can someone explain DE&I to me, please? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, right. Okay, cool. Well, so he's bringing up DE&I because it's something that Blizzard often kind of trumpets and says that they care about. And he's saying, look, if you do care about diversity and inclusion, right, that also means diversity of ideas, as in letting people work from home. That's what he's saying in this sentence, right? That's why he brings it up. He's like, you know, Blizz say they're all into diversity, ethics, and inclusion. Well, that extends to work from home. Like, that is one facet of it, right? Because allowing work from home does allow more diversity and inclusion, frankly. You know, do you think it's easier to work from home if you're disabled? Do you think it's easier to work from home if you come from a certain background, which means, you know, you don't live in the right places to work for these companies? Obviously, having work from home, which basically means people can work for your company from anywhere in the country, of course that's going to increase diversity and inclusion. Of course it is. It's a no-brainer. And yeah, if people want to come back to the office, it's nice if that's an option, of course, but it certainly feels like people definitely don't want that right now. It definitely feels like, you know, the amount of people on this team that don't want to be forced back into the office is enough that it's causing development of this game that we all love, and which I think everyone in this chat would agree is in a really good place right now. You know, like, they're decimating their own team. And this is backed up by, this is my first experience of Adam. I follow him now, obviously. But then Alison Steele, like a incredible game developer, right? Someone who, you know, Blizz should be valuing, and frankly, Bobby Kotick should be crawling over broken fucking glass. But also, he should be crawling over glass to stop and to keep devs like Alison Steele fucking happy. Bobby Kotick and Blizz management should be pulling out all of the stops to keep devs like Alison Steele happy. Fact. Management has to justify the multi-billion-dollar building. Well, this is the part of the... So I've done the part of the conversation that everyone can agree with. Okay, I've done the part of the conversation that even probably heel versus babyface would agree with. I've done the part of the conversation that Nerdcrotic would agree with. I've done the part of the conversation that the Quartering would agree with. I feel like we can all agree with what I've just said, regardless of politics and things like that, okay? I feel like most people would agree Dragonflight is a fucking banger. It was made completely at home, and, you know, that proves that you can make really good WoW expansions from home, unusually good WoW expansions from home, and everyone fucking leaving the company because they're being forced back into the office who made this game is probably a bad thing, right? Okay, I think most people would agree with that. Now I'm going to get onto the part of the conversation which is no less true, but which people will start disagreeing with me about, and that's the reason why this is happening, and that's capitalism. Because the same people that own game publishers, the same hedge funds, the same shareholders that own Activision Blizzard and other big companies own buildings, own fast food stores, own offices, own commercial properties that they need to rent. And when people work from home and people don't commute into a commercial center, those buildings that they make money from renting, like hedge funds make money by owning Activision Blizzard, but they make most of their money from real estate, right? Real estate is like the most capitalist pursuit you can imagine. It's like, because real estate and landlording famously, this is not me saying this, right? But famously is like one of the purest forms of capitalism that exists, where you are creating value simply from owning something. So the capital that you had to buy into something and just become its owner is the reason you are entitled to the money from it. Like, that is the essence of capitalism. That's what it is. And so, yeah, you bet your fucking life that all of the hedge funds that own Activision and own the majority of shares in Activision, they also own all of this real estate and all of these commercial properties. And you bet your fucking life that not having workers go into commercial centers and use the offices and use the food outlets and things around there and stuff has a massive effect on landlords. But not only that, it decreases property prices in and around these commercial centers, which is where most of the landlords' kind of like portfolio is based, because people are moving out of those centers because they don't need to live near to those centers anymore. So it's bad for landlords from the point of view of like the offices that they own and like the commercial properties they own, but also from the private properties they own, like the residential properties they own, because again, they own most of the properties around those areas and people are moving out of them and lowering the property value. So yeah, and if we like Activision Blizzard are the most profitable games company in the world, but do we really think that holds a fucking candle to real estate? Do we really think that the hedge funds that own Activision Blizzard and pay Bobby Kotick's fucking salary care more about World of Warcraft than they do their property portfolio that has taken generations to build up and which makes them untouchable, makes them literal government rulers? I don't think so. That's the most important thing in the world to them. And that's what's really behind Return to Office. That's what's really behind it. Because it's not creating good video games. Because it can't be. Because the evidence shows that actually letting people work from home created a fucking brilliant video game. 5 days in office is a bit shit. Oh yeah, well, we already know that 5 days in the office is actually suboptimal. Like, the most optimal work week is 4 days. That's what gets the most productivity out of workers. And so people are always like, well, that makes no sense, because why would like hyper-capitalists that care about squeezing every penny from everything, why would they care more about just making their workers work for the sake of it than they would getting the optimal performance out of their workers? That doesn't make sense, Taliesin. Your figures must be wrong. It's because of real estate. It's because it's not just the workers and the value that the workers produce, it's where the workers spend their money, because they own all of that as well. And it's been like this since the Industrial Revolution. They might make more money from that particular worker by only having them work 4 days a week, But all the other money they would lose from not having someone go into an office 5 days a week, not have someone spending their money in and around the office 5 days a week, giving them more options to live other places apart from, in and around the centres, they would lose more. Don't forget, the rental price per square foot on commercial property is much higher than the rental price per square foot on residential and is sold at much higher chunks. Exactly. Why manage 1,000 square foot apartments at $1,500 a pop when I can rent the whole 100k square space to a company for 300k a month? Yeah, exactly. And it's... Once you realize, and here's the thing, like, everyone knows it's the same people that own all of this stuff. Everyone knows that hedge funds own everything, right? And yet I always get loads of pushback when I bring this up. I don't want to talk about it too much because the most important thing is that people are being forced back into the office, right? When they don't want to. And as a result, the company is getting absolutely gutted. Or Team 2, who made a fucking banging expansion. Finally, they were allowed to make the expansion they wanted to make. They make a fucking brilliant expansion and they're being decimated. And they suffer, which is the most important thing. But we... the players will suffer as well because we're not going to get as good a game as we would have got. The game that we're going to end up with, and we won't feel this until, you're right, the commenter from earlier, 10.2 or something like that. We won't feel it until then, when it just feels a bit maybe feature light or whatever because they've had to scrap so much. I've been working from home for the last 8 years. You and me both, brother. And work harder and more hours now than I ever did. Oh, yeah. I was up until 4 a.m. working last night. I've had 3 hours sleep. And even then, when I went to bed, I was up because the baby is having a tough time at the moment. She's teething. So, yeah, like I work harder than I would in any office working from home. And maybe that's a bad thing, honestly. Maybe, that's why sometimes I crave office life, is because I crave the structure of it, because I work for myself, so I work all the time. Is content creation your full-time job? Yeah, it has been since 2016. I'm an incredibly lucky man. You work harder than for a business? Yeah, exactly. But if I worked for a business, I would have structure, even if I worked from home. That's the thing. So it's not the working from home that is a problem for me. That's actually amazing and I love it. It's the lack of kind of anyone telling me this is when I have to work and I don't have to work other times, right? Whereas in a business I would. In a business, if I worked for an employer, which I don't, then I would have that structure which I don't have working for myself, right?